Hello all, this is Mr. Bacon Bits, and welcome back to Tiny Bunny. Episode 3 has just come out. I am so excited to start playing it again. Apparently, all of my saves were incompatible when this update occurred, so I had to play through Chapter 1 and 2. It wasn't really that bad. It only took a few minutes of auto-advancing all the text, so... Anyway, let's go ahead and load. Last episode, we got bullied by that stupid bully, and apparently he became lost. I don't remember if this was when I last, where Chapter 2 ended, but I'm going to continue off from here, so... I was in the middle of the stuffy school corridor. Okay. I could see the literature classroom from here, the faces of dead classical writers on their portraits, the prim and regal pose of our homeroom teacher, Lilia Pavlovna. And around that corner was her daughter Katya, a snitch and a gossip, eagerly waiting for me.
Эй, новенький, новенький.
Чего тебе, Кать?
Oh. Okay, I think I know where this is. This is the dream that's in Chapter 2. Okay, because I know that Chapter 2 began when he got into the school. But I think this is the dream part of it, so I'm going to skip past this part. A black and white face was staring at me through the clearing between student heads. And it wasn't Vova. His face was right beside it. I recognized the fat cheeks, the damaged skin. Semyon. Baburin's photo was printed out and placed under the glass like an exhibition piece. Alright, now we get to start Episode 3. On end the wolf's grey fur will stand. I can't really do deep epic voices. Well, then again, I don't know. He's the one who hated Baburin. You think he did it? I've heard he's a weirdo. I hurriedly rubbed my glasses. The glasses! Semyon was clutching them in his fist while I was getting beaten up. And in just a couple of hours, this lost item was lying on the ledge of my window. It was hard to imagine that Sioma suddenly got guilty conscience and returned my glasses in such a strange way. I was shocked, but kept walking toward the classroom, accompanied by nasty whispers all around me. That photo still stood before my eyes. Semyon has gone missing. Semyon is gone. His fat fingers will never get to my throat. His signet ring won't smash into my chin. He'll never humiliate me again. Wasn't that what I wished for? On the other hand, did I really wish Semyon to become a murky stain on the notice board? I don't know, man. He was still someone's son, or a grandson, and he went through the same struggles as me. Did I really wish for my unseen companion to dispatch him in such a brutal fashion? Well, now you're just assuming things. I didn't know the answer, or I was just scared of it. Nonetheless, school still had something nice about it. Yeah, the girl you clearly have a crush over. Paulina, the girl with the violin, was like a mountain spring, like well water that you gulp down, pressing your lips against the zinc outer ring of a bucket, and can't ever get enough. What if I make her one of the characters in the story I'll draw? The protagonist will save her from terrifying monsters. As soon as I thought of monsters, a bunch of my classmates slid down the rails, smirking like the xenomorphs from the Alien. I immediately felt larvae of fear writhe in my stomach. I didn't want to cross paths with Romka and Biasha after what happened yesterday, especially since Semyon suddenly went missing. Yeah. I wonder if they know what happened about Semyon. I entered the classroom and went toward the last row. All of the chatter suddenly died down, so I walked there in complete silence. It felt like my classmates pushed and poked me with their stares. They carefully observed my every move. They looked at me with a mortifying mix of pity, ridicule, and derision. Is that how you say it? Derision? Derision? Like a scientist looks at an ugly representative of a newfound species of worms. I stared at the desk with a huge pile of library textbooks on top, my fists clenched. It felt like I was the only one who disappeared in that snowy forest, and my desk was finally used for something worthwhile. Semyon's empty chair stood in front of me. The chair that once belonged to Vovo was gathering dust somewhere in another classroom. After a moment of hesitation, I sat down at Baburin's desk, the place where I was supposed to be assigned by Lilia Pavlovna at first. The chatter resumed, as if someone just unpaused a movie.
Бабушка Бабурина такой кипиш устроила, когда он домой не явился. Сначала в школу прибежала, потом ментов вызвала. Да-да-да.
Katya snuck a cunning glance at me, then leaned into her neighbor and whispered something. Girls from the second row also leaned in. She shared something with them too. Whispers, nods. I kept catching her stare on myself. Her neighbor stared too. The whole class was watching me. It was like they felt the need to watch me because they were searching for traces of blood on my fingers. I wanted to defend myself and shout, "Guys, listen, I'm innocent." The delinquents turned around and stared at me in silence. Their looks were dripping with malice. But why? What did I do to them? Their friend went missing and they're still focused on me. Suddenly, I noticed Biasha drilling a hole in my nose with his eyes. It felt like he was about to point his finger at me and shout at the top of his lungs, "Everyone look! Baburin snatched his glasses yesterday, and now he has them back! Murderer!" But he remained silent, as if there was nothing special at all about my glasses. I may be going mad, but I think Biasha knows something. He knows something, but he won't tell me what. As if looking for protection, I clutched the ruler until my hand hurt.
Не надо быть Коломбо, чтобы догадаться. Кто на Бабурина зуб имел? Кто его вчера ударил? Поиздевался, а после...
The metal ruler fell out of my weak fingers. It hit the floor with a jingle then, and that made the other kids shudder. Katya bit her tongue and squirmed nervously. Chairs scraped against the floor. My classmates moved away from me, closer to the exit, toward the teacher's desk. Well, I don't know what's worse. Everyone being afraid of you? Or everyone making fun of you? I was not the only one to catch wind of that change. Romka and Biasha looked around and winced in contempt. Too bad that they weren't afraid of me like everyone else.
Да прикуси ты! Бабурин, небось, с бабкой посрался и сдымился. Скоро найдется.
Найдется, ага. Во овраге со вспоротым брюхом.
I gulped. I imagined Syoma on a snowy blanket, his face, white like a fish belly, split down the middle by the crevice of his mouth, snowflakes falling on his glassy eyes and filling up his throat. See, I could almost hear his condescending tone. "It's all your fault." But why was Semyon the only one to get his just desserts for bullying me? Weren't all of them supposed to disappear? Romka, Biasha, Katya, along with every laughing onlooker. Of course, Semyon did me a favor by disappearing. Thanks to him, my classmates now stared at me in awe, and perhaps fear. But that was only one side of the coin. What if I'll have to repay that favor soon? The door creaked. Polina entered the classroom. I straightened up in a hurry so she wouldn't see me looking like a scared critter. Paulina went to her seat without looking at me. The ringer's trill announced the start of the class.
Так, заканчиваем бардак. Дети, встаньте. Петров, тебя это тоже касается.
Lilia Pavlovna went to her desk, followed by a policeman in a uniform. I like the goofy music for the policeman. It was the man that visited us just recently, tall and a stare so sharp you could get cut on it.
Здрасте.
I briefly forgot that they're voiced.
Здравствуйте!
Hello.
Садитесь. Познакомьтесь, это старший лейтенант Константин Владимирович Тихонов. Он задаст вам несколько вопросов и проведет небольшую лекцию по безопасности.
That sounds good.
Лучше лекция от милиционера.
The class livened up. Talking to a policeman was way better than studying. I, on the other hand, was ready to sit through hundreds of hours of Russian literature just to escape the lieutenant's oppressive stare. His brown eyes felt around the classroom, looking for me. Hair stood on the back of my neck, and an icicle had lodged in my gut.
А правда, что бабурина маньяк убил?
Екатерина, ну-ка цыц. Вопросы здесь взрослые задают.
Просто нам всем страшно. Может, убийца бродит где-то рядом?
Oh, shut up.
Или сидит у нас за спиной?
Her sly stare was directed at me. Tikhonov stepped in between the rows of desks and started walking at an excruciatingly slow pace, brushing his fingers against the chairs he passed by. Some of the students almost broke their necks following his movements. That's how a crowd of commoners would gleefully anticipate a public execution in the Middle Ages. And he just walked, getting closer and closer to me. I gritted my teeth to stop myself from screaming. Calm down. Breathe. You didn't kill or kidnap anyone. Yeah. He already knew the answer to his question, but the policeman still asked in a stern voice.
Петров Антон?
Да.
Встань, Петров.
My muscles turned to stone. I got up, unglued myself from the chair. I felt like I could hear all my joints creak in the process. I only wished that Paulina wouldn't turn around and see the grimace of horror on my face. If only I could be somewhere far away, in the forest, digging myself into a snow pile, rolling up into a ball there. The officer stared at me as if he was about to lock a pair of handcuffs on my wrist. I wonder how cold those bracelets are to the touch. I imagined myself getting jailed and put into a juvenile detention center where tens of Semyons would constantly harass me.
Я ничего не знаю. Я тут ни при чем.
А тебя никто и не обвиняет. Пока что.
Only then I noticed a file that said case number in his hand. It had a gray cover made from rough carton. It flopped onto the desk like a guillotine blade that slid down on someone's neck. You have a very... I'm pretty sure I've said it before, but you have a very imaginative vocabulary for a kid. With a measured motion, Tikhonov opened the file, still studying me with his gaze. I caught a glimpse of documents and photos. They showed prints on the snow. They looked like animal prints.
Ты с Семеном Бабуриным общался?
Yes.
Я знал его всего одну неделю.
Все знают, Петров его ненавидел.
I turned red. You ugly bitch. I wanted to sink my teeth into Katya's face and chew out her cheek. Instead, I replied with the calmest voice I could muster.
Мы повздорили вчера. Но он первый начал. Я его ударил.
Сильно?
Да нет, так.
I waved my hand indecisively. Tikhonov looked at my fist as if he was surprised that I managed to hit the big kid from the photo. Surprisingly, Lilia Pavlovna came to my rescue.
Бабурин проблемный подросток. С шилом кое-где.
Thank you. The officer replied with a meaningful nod and fished out a notebook out of the file.
Это твое?
I averted my gaze. It was a math notebook with my name on it. My classmates devoured me greedily with their eyes. It felt like even the writers on the portraits squinted at me in suspicion.
Моё.
В лесу нашли. Там же тракторист, что снег убирал в последний раз, видел Бабурина.
I started blinking in bewilderment. Romka ransacked my school bag. This notebook probably just got lost somewhere in the bushes. Yeah. The lieutenant knew about the school brawl, but was he aware of the fight in the forest clearing? I had witnesses that could testify to Semyon and I walking in different directions after that. I looked toward the boys, hopeful. Romka, who sat behind Tikhonov, put a finger to his lips. He wants to keep quiet, huh? And when the officer quickly turned around, he pretended to pick on his nose. I deciphered his signal. Boys like Romka would probably say something like snitches get stitches in a situation like this. I frantically fixed my glasses. Wait, Semyon took them away yesterday, but now they're...
Так что ты делал вчера в лесу, Антон?
Я в школу через лес хожу. Могла выпасть легко.
Yeah. Easily, just like me producing this half-truth.
Будь осторожнее.
Before I could realize whether it was a genuine piece of advice or a veiled threat, the teacher said,
Класс. А сейчас лейтенант расскажет о правилах, которые вам необходимо соблюдать.
Так маньяк все-таки есть.
Пока мы ничего вам сказать не можем. Но есть преступник или нет, вы должны четко помнить о собственной безопасности. Вас бережет милиция, вас опекают родители и учителя. Но в первую очередь защищать себя должны вы сами. Итак, кто там что хотел узнать?
Yeah, is mayonnaise an instrument? A stockade of arms rose from the desks. The kids shouted over each other, swarming the policemen with questions. In an attempt to calm down that chorus, he moved toward the blackboard. The gray file was left lying in front of me. I stared at it, my breathing so ragged that I might have looked like someone who just ran a 100-meter sprint. Beads of sweat rolled down my back.
Ясно.
That's uncomfortable. I looked around the classroom. My classmates were catching officers' every word. Only Romko was saying something to Biasha. Lilia Pavlovna was staring into the window, fighting back yawns.
Объявлять комендантский час причин пока нет. Слишком мало времени прошло с момента исчезновения вашего одноклассника. Мы все уверены, что он найдется живым и здоровым. Но сразу после уроков...
As soon as I touched the folder, Tikhonov lashed at me with his eyes. I don't think I should have done that. Also, the game was really lagging. My hand instinctively moved away as if that stare actually hurt. The officer just kept staring at me without saying a word, making me squirm under the weight of this uncomfortable silence and the sneering looks of my classmates. And then he suddenly continued his speech as if nothing ever happened.
Вы должны идти домой и отчитываться перед родителями. Гулять во дворах.
I clanged my teeth from surprise. pushed myself into the back of my chair, blinking in bewilderment. Okay, I thought I was supposed... Well, maybe. The officer silently gathered the documents and gave me a stern look.
Больно ты любопытный, Петров. И еще раз.
Caught napping. Okay.
Если вы заметите в поселке кого-то подозрительного, неважно, возле школы или на лесной тропинке, сразу сообщайте в милицию. Телефон-то знаете? Спасибо, ребята. Спасибо, Лилия Павловна. И это... Одноклассника вашего мы найдем.
Yeah, right. A thought flashed through my mind. I read that they added minigames in Chapter 3. That was probably one of them. Like, maybe I was supposed to sneak a peek while he wasn't looking. But, yeah. Dig through enough ditches and maybe you'll be able to piece him together. What is this, like, italicized one? Like Legos. My thoughts turned evil for some reason and I couldn't control them. Yeah, there's like some weird, like, italicized thoughts that are basically evil in nature. That's weird. I tried to switch to the lieutenant's speech about suspicious individuals. What if I saw the killer before? What if I was a hair's breadth away from them? Suspicious people. How suspicious was the fox girl that wandered in the darkness? She was a little bit weird. A weirdo that always appears out of nowhere and then dissolves into thin air with her riddles and rhymes. Could she really harm the hulking Semyon? Should I tell the officer about her? No, he would just think you're crazy and brush it off. What if lives of other kids depend on this? Of the cute Ksenia and Volva, too. Wait, what if I get mocked for speaking out? What if they'll start whispering behind my back, or what's even worse, think that I'm insane? Romka gave me a stern look over the shoulder. I doubt someone like him would approve of cooperating with the police. Katya's braid dangled nervously behind the delinquents sitting in front of me. My hand was glued to the desk.
До свидания, лейтенант.
Tikhonov was saying goodbye to Lilia Pavlovna. He was about to leave. It'll be too late soon. I'm gonna stay silent. No way. I've had enough of humiliation. I'll keep my head down, like a bunny. I locked my fingers and zipped my mouth. The bell rang. Lilia Pavlovna passed by without looking my way. Paulina left after her. My classmates went silent at the same time, as if someone muted the sound on a TV. They followed me with their eyes the whole time I was passing between the rows. Judgmental looks. I felt like I was in the scopes of many sniper rifles. I squeezed through the barricade made of desks, looking for Paulina. But I stumbled into my new buddies instead. Romka swaggered up to me.
Решил сдать нас ментам?
No!
Но я ничего не сказал. Да то подумал на.
Romka towered over me, breathing out a faint smell of tobacco.
Ты сильно ошибаешься, думая, что без Сёмы у тебя настанут веселые деньки. Мы тебя сосвету сживем, понял? До скорого, очкарик.
My head tilted forward from his slap.
Вот да лохна!
I wasn't surprised to find a note stuck to my back during the break. It said kick me. My nightmare clearly wasn't about to end. Yeah, bullies fucking suck. It's been 7 days since the lieutenant visited our class. At first glance, everything was still the same. The forest still held out its gnarly claws toward the village, and the wind whipped up white flags weaved from powdery snow every night. When my parents argued in the other room, I would turn up the TV's volume to silence their muffled voices and sit close to Olya. Vova's and Semyon's photos were still 2 black spots on the notice board, and round-faced Senya hasn't returned home too. But something did change. Whoops! I could see how different the looks of my classmates were. They met me with a new portion of pokes and insults. Contempt, mockery, and loneliness became my faithful companions. But most importantly, a shadow slid across my desk, leaving behind a mysterious note. I glanced into the space between rows, but the messenger was already nowhere to be found. Who sent me this note? What could this carefully ripped out and neatly folded piece of paper be hiding from me? More threats and humiliation, or... I took the piece of paper and carefully inhaled the wafting aroma. Blackberry. Paulina? Inside was a message in beautiful handwriting. I'm waiting at a dead end near the dressing room. Come alone. Drunk on that sudden call, I immediately started walking, looking over my shoulder from time to time, making sure nobody is following me. Even though I suspected it could be another trap set up by Romka and Biasha at first, this buzzing thought soon left my mind. The two of them didn't have enough combined brain power to fake Paulina's notes so carefully. I didn't even notice how I almost broke into a run and jumped around the corner. As soon as I did that, I rammed into somebody inside the dark nook.
Oi!
Ow! Like a magic bird, a green notebook glided to my feet. Paulina puffed her cheeks in exaggerated anger.
Петров! Да ты совсем зрение потерял.
I fixed my glasses. My nearsightedness wasn't that embarrassing anymore. I bent down and picked up the notebook.
Прости, я так торопился. Ты меня ждала? Что случилось?
Paulina studied me with her eyes and clicked her tongue.
А знаешь, на что ты похож, Антоша?
What do I look like?
На блюзовую импровизацию.
Oh. I blinked in bewilderment.
Это как? Для меня все люди с чем-то ассоциируются. И для меня, но не с музыкой же.
'Cause she likes music, you
Вот как раз с музыкой. Бывают люди гитарное соло, или барабанный бой, или военный марш, как наша Лилия Павловна. А ты такой задумчивый, таинственный, иногда немного печальный. Ты точно блюз. А почему импровизация? А это когда слушатель не догадывается, куда свернет мелодия, какой темп возьмет.
Of course, some of the things Paulina said went completely over my head. I get it, though. That's actually really nice. But I couldn't stop looking at her smile, light like a breeze in May, and her eyes deep in blue.
Чтобы распознать в тебе музыку, нужен опыт и вкус. Это не какая-то там эстрада. Я, наверное, вообще не знаю, что такое этот блюз.
Paulina gasped and frowned, which made her look even more beautiful.
Не произноси при мне такие слова. Я тебе обязательно дам кассету. Раньше мне дедушка из города столько музыки привозил. И джаз, и свинг, и классику. Это он подметил, что у меня склад ума, как у музыканта. Я еще совсем маленькой пыталась на бумаге записать звуки природы. Пение дождя, леса. Эх, мне бы твои уши. А мне бы твои глаза.
I tensed up, worried that she was making fun of me, but Paulina shook her head.
Да-да, я серьезно. У тебя глаза художника. Смотришь на вещи и фиксируешь их. Я так не умею.
Oh. Katya walked past us with her trademark frosty glare. We dove into the shadows, trying to escape it.
Теперь понимаешь, почему мы тут прячемся? Вот из-за таких, как она.
Yeah, troublemakers like her.
А Катька какая мелодия.
Paulina flashed me a sly smile.
Скрип несмазанных дверных петель. Знаешь, такой мерзкий дискант.
I giggled, covering my mouth. Katya didn't hear our whispers, but she suddenly glanced over her shoulder, clearly annoyed. A moment later, she sighed and went her way. I remembered about the notebook I was still clutching in my hand. I turned it in my hands. Instead of a subject name, the front side had the name of the owner and 2 words, friends only.
Любопытной Варваре кое-что оторвали.
Прости, это анкета?
Заполнял когда-нибудь?
I lied that I had. In reality, girl classmates from my previous school had never asked me to fill their questionnaires. It was quite upsetting. I mean, it was a girl hobby. You just answer a set of standard questions about your favorite actors and colors. But entrusting someone with such a notebook was the sign of friendship. And maybe of something even more. Something I only had a vague idea about. Yeah, because you're still kids.
Хочешь, заполни мою?
My heartbeat quickened.
Хочу, спасибо.
Paulina giggled.
А хотя, там же столько секретов. Наверное, лучше тебе не знать, о чем мы, девочки, думаем.
She reached for the notebook, playing with me. I tossed my finding into my free hand. Paulina tried to intercept my move. Her hair briefly touched my face, tickling my nose with its silky locks. I sensed an aroma that immediately filled the whole world. Fragrant, alluring, lively. If only I could picture it, steal it for myself. I felt dizzy, but I gathered myself and spoke in a voice reminiscent of Lieutenant Tikhonov.
Ваша анкета является важнейшей уликой, и я вынужден временно изъять ее для изучения.
Paulina covered her mouth that rounded in fake horror.
И что мне грозит за сокрытие улик?
Следствие покажет.
Сдаюсь, товарищ милиционер. Только обещайте ничего не читать. Здесь содержатся секретные сведения.
Боюсь, что мне все-таки придется выяснить, не влюблен ли кто в гражданина Петрова.
Paulina burst out laughing and pressed herself against my chest, showering me with the aroma of her hair and her milky skin that looked almost transparent, with tiny threads of veins running under it. Her whisper was hot like a piece of butter sizzling on a pan.
Тогда поклянитесь, что не станете разглашать информацию.
Честная милицейская.
А теперь, Антоша, самое время поторопиться.
Ah, young love. I took out the notebook during class. Skimmed through it, reading into other people's preferences. I was quite surprised to discover Romka's jerky handwriting inside. His letters bulged out of the cells, as if embarrassed by their shapelessness. Fearsome Romka found time for something so silly? I chuckled into my fist after I found out that Romka's favorite cartoon is not even Darkwing Duck, but DuckTales. Why? DuckTales is awesome! Somewhere in the distance, a teacher was reciting pieces of Andre's Snapper. I paid them no mind. Maybe it's just like he doesn't expect someone like Roma to like DuckTales, I don't know. Paulina's page was decorated with flower drawings and clippings from the Cool Girl magazine. Her favorite musician is Schubert. Her best friend is her grandpa. Ah. Her hobby is not violin like I expected, but a much more mysterious listening. Can such a mundane process really be someone's hobby? I mean, you never know. I am a good listener. I looked at Paulina over the heads of other students. She was focused on taking notes. I flipped the pages until I found a blank one and armed myself with a pen. Anton Petrov, Class 6B. I took a long time to decide on my favorite musician until a trendy pop band Carman came to mind with the cool dancers in their music videos. Carman? No. Favorite holiday? Oh, this one's easy. New Year's. My hobby is drawing. My dream... going to Disneyland, I guess. My hero. My hand moved on its own, writing da. I stopped on those 2 letters. What if those who read this after me will find my answer laughable and stupid? Don't! This is for Paulina, not anybody else. After thinking for a bit, I decided that not everything should be disclosed on paper. That's how Da turned into Spider-Man. The spelling was wrong, but who cares? Your biggest fear, huh? I immediately wrote, losing a person who's dear to me. Your phone number. Oh, no secret here. 30395. Your favorite cartoon. Transformers. Yeah. Your best friend. I hesitated, gnawing on the pen's cap. Your best friend. I read the question out loud. It was easy, but at the same time very important. The answer to that was my sister's name, so I carefully wrote it into the squares. Olya. Olya. I repeated my sister's name while sneaking out of the school. There was a cute, freshly drawn dragon in my notebook that I made to please my beloved sister. In this land of darkness and deceit, her support was the only thing that inspired me to keep drawing and stopped me from losing hope in humanity. Refreshing frosty air made my cheeks turn beet red. It was bright outside, and the sun looked like a whole egg yolk. The road looked as if it was silvered. The snow sparkled under the sunlight. I smiled, squinting from the blinding whiteness. Who cares if I don't have any true friends anymore? I have something more important, someone who needs my help, who will never betray or hurt me. Family is the most important thing ever. That's what Dad always told me. Ah, you ruined the moment. My numb lips immediately shrank. Biasha was Biasha was shuffling his feet in the middle of the yard, his boots restless on the ice.
Я не тяну.
I tried to go around him, to no avail. Lady Fortune waved me goodbye, disappearing in the early twilight.
Немного. Меня папа ждет.
Я ему тиркну на пейджер, что ты не придешь.
Why? My eye flinched unwittingly, my skin dampened.
Идем, к тебе дельце есть.
Why? I don't have any business with you. I felt chills run all over my body. I didn't like the sounds of that small business. Those words, accompanied by spitting, normally hid very dark deeds underneath them. Strangers that used to call our old apartment used to say, "Get your old man, we have a small business to discuss." Biasha turned around. He looked like an astronaut in this tight hood. If I were to imagine him as a sound, he'd be a deafening whistle, a signal given by someone who stands watch. To my demise, there was nobody at the backyard. Apart from the grim-faced Romka. He stood there, his feet wide apart, with his right hand hidden behind his back. Yeah, that's a very threatening pose. Romka's dry lips were tightly pursed. He kept shooting glances at me as he looked around.
Привёлна.
You have a gun, don't you?
Вижу. Ну, здорово, Антоша.
Что тебе нужно?
Okay. He slowly took out a thin, carnivorously shiny blade from behind his back. A knife, the steel butterfly of death that flies toward the victim's heartbeat. I stepped back instinctively and rammed my back into Biasha. Romka's minion pushed me back.
А мы с Бешей хотели узнать, ты не держишь на нас обиду?
Romka started picking on his yellow nail, looking at me with an evil smirk on his face.
Ну, там, в лесу. Мы были немного грубы с тобой.
Сам понимаешь, такое у нас воспитание.
Да, до вас, городских, далеко. Вот порой нас и заносит.
I nodded, my eyes glued to the knife. The blade glowed under the setting sun, and Romka's eyes had the same evil glow. He stepped toward me. His knife traveled inches away from my coat. One movement and steel would cut into the cloth, and if he pushes deeper...
Нам одна птичка напела. Ты опять возле Полины отирался?
I was so scared that it took me a while to remember who Paulina was. My brain was malfunctioning. My knees were shaking. Suddenly, our class rep slowly walked up to Romka from behind.
О, смотрю, мальчики, вы нашли общий язык.
За мной должок, Катька.
Ой, не благодари, Ромочка. Я всегда на страже настоящей любви. Да-да-да.
I'll kill you, I swear.
Так, я не слышу. Ты к Полине подходил или нет?
Мы так болтали.
Болтать будешь кишками, когда я тебе брюхо вскрою.
The blade slid across my sleeve with its dull side and reached my collar. The wind made my face cold, but a bead of sweat still trickled from my temple. A switch flipped in my head. It all made sense now. I remembered Romka constantly sneaking glances at Paulina. I remembered his scrawly handwriting in the questionnaire. Why didn't I study it more in depth?
Еще раз замечу рядом с Полинкой, пеняй на себя. Шишкой не отделаешься. Усек?
Да.
Пшел вон!
I was probably so hypnotized by the knife that Romka had to repeat his threat.
Вон!
I thought about the cold, sharp blade when retreating from the yard. I was asking myself whether I had enough courage to break the promise I made to these bastards. The aftertaste of horrible water I drank down my meds with lingered in my mouth. My thoughts were focused on Paulina. But Romka's threat was also on my mind. I wandered around the house, feeling intoxicated, and nodded to everything my sister said without trying to discern her words. Olya was talking non-stop, at times lifting up her arms and laughing, only to then suddenly go quiet and give me Mom's signature gnarly look. I was yanked out of the prison of my own mind, where seething thoughts packed at my brain like harpies, stopping me from coming back to reality. I stared back. Olya looked like a mini version of our mom right now. Well, to be precise, she looked like the person Mom turned into when we moved here, with her intimidating posture and her eyebrows directed toward the ceiling.
Ты меня не слушал, так?
She tried spitting out those words at me, copying facial expressions of the person she spent almost all of her free time with. For a moment I felt like the light Olya exuded all these years waned and wavered in the wind of prolonged changes. Very soon, my beautiful princess will turn into the dragon that was once guarding her prison tower. That thought was much scarier to me than any other horror sneaking up to me from the future.
Оля, прости. Ты же не сердишься, правда? Я просто задумался.
I looked around the room, my gaze jumping from one object to another like a hungry beast, trying to find anything that could distract Olya.
А давай в приставку поиграем.
Olya pouted, but there was a spark of interest in her small emerald eyes. The Snow Queen's ice shard inside them started gnawing.
А как же второй джойстик? Не работает же. А папе починить некогда.
Можем из пистолета пострелять. В ковбоев или уток. Хочешь?
Ты лучше меня играешь.
Да ладно тебе. Поди целый день тренировалась, пока меня дома не было.
Olya burst out laughing. Her heart was warm once again.
А как ты догадался? Я сейчас знаешь, какая меткая. Считай, уже проиграл.
Не на того напала. Включай скорее.